Konko sanibonani nonke babukeli bami emakhaya uyazi ke sesifikile thina nohlelo intandoikazi yenu ilungelo lakho it's your right mbukeli uyazi ukuthi lolu uhlelo phela olukwazisa kabanzi ngamalungelo akho njengomthengi mbukeli abameli phela baziwa phela njengabantu abamele ukuthi balungise kodwa wenza njani ke uma ngabe phela ummeli esenza ubugebengu njengokuthatha imali yakho mbukeli lokhu sekujwayelekileke ikakhulukazi kulabo phela abafake izicelo zeingozi zemoto ku-Road Accident Fund. Mbukeli hlala nathi siza ukuthi ubani ovikela abathengi kulesi simo. Eyakajala intokazi uMabhengu uMangcolozi uNhlanhlo Alisha igama uthi sanibonani. You can call us in studio 011-714-6918 or 714-6919. consumer@sabc.co.za is our email address. Sikhona futhi on Facebook. I'll be taking your Facebook messages. Okwamanje asihlale phezu kodaba letla namhlanje. Mbukeli umthengi waseRustenburg ubaba uMziwoxolo Mabawo walimala engozini yemoto back in 2012 ungomunye wabantu abaningi la eNingizimu Afrika owalinda iminyaka ngaphambi kokuthi phela ize iphume imali yakhe kwi-Road Accident Fund kodwa ke into ayikhalela kakhulu mbukeli ingxabano phela yokuthi ummeli wakhe wavane wabona ukuthi ingcono ayigodlele enye yesamba semali yakhe namhlanje ke sivula lolu hlelo naye ocingweni esho indaba yakhe. Baba uMziwoxolo siyakwamukela ohlelweni baba. Thank you so much for joining us. Awusichazele baba siyeza ukuthi wawusesimene esibucayi kakhulu waba engozini yemoto ngo-2012 sekwaba nobuhiqihiqi ummeli wakho agcine seyibambile imali. Awusithi nje phaca kancane ngodaba lakho baba.
Sizindathe kulimaleni kwami ndabhatala sisi. Wokuna lo mmeli wami yena wathatha 200,000. Wasisa kum 600,000 waphinde wayigcina kuye sisi. Wokuna ke ngifuna imali yami kuba kaloku ndivelelwa zingxaki ezinkulu zokufihla kodwa ayizinge ngendlela yayo le mali ngoku.
Yebo.
Ya. Wokuna yiloo nto ngondibangela uba mangane ngoku. Kuba loba ndenzele ubutsotsi ngoku.
Okay baba, so ugcina imali kanjani? Kwenze njani ukuthi azakhona ukuthi athathe lesamba semali? Waze kanjani wena ukuthi imali zakho seyiphumile? Awusichazele baba indlela yakhe yokuthi uzumthole lo mmeli wamthathe phi baba?
Hayi babeze apha eRustenburg bona.
Yebo.
Sakabhalisa ke ngosilimele. Wokuna ke ngoku yathi ke ngokuphuma kwayo le mali bandibizela phaa kubo nge-27 ngamathi kulonyaka uphelileyo.
Yebo.
Babuza kuba ngokuna umthetho okhoyo ngokugcinela imali uthiwa ungayinikwa yonke ndifuna mali nangoku ndathi ke mina ndifuna i-20,000 ngelo xesha.
Yebo.
Bandinika ke leyo.
Okay.
Ngoku kwathiwa kenye ndizogcinelwa babo lo mthetho ke ngoku ndiyawubona uba uyaphazama lo mthetho ngoba ndiswelekelwe ngumfowethu awumfihla ngetyala abandinika mali bandinika late.
Bakuthi mawuthola imali baba uthi ummeli indaba egcina isamba semali mhlawumbe ungakhona ukuthi usichazele ukuthi isamba semali engakanani.
Uthi kaloku ngumthetho omtsha ovelileyo.
Hawu uthi umthetho omusha ukuthi kumele bagcine isamba semali yenu. Hawu and then isamba esingakanani lesi baba sigcinile?
Kaloku la mali yayi 600,000.
600,000.
Yeah, ngoku nasekushiyeke 400,000. 16,700.
Okay baba. So okwamanje awusichazeleke baba khona ngizothi mengibuye emva kwekhefu uma ngikhuluma nezivakashi zami la e-studio kuyibona phela abantu abazobe besilungisela lolu daba abaphethe bona abenza ukukhwabanisa mayelana nabameli. Ukusiphi isigaba uke wahamba ukuthi uhambe mhlambe uyofaka isikhalazo mayelana naye lo mmeli ogcinela imali baba?
Ngiqale komnye phaa ekhaya edorobheni wathi yena la tata ufuna uqonda kwabanye abameli uba le mthetho wapasiswa na. Bafumaniseka uba zange upasiswe lo mthetho. Wandicacisela ke lo tata uba hayi abantu bakurobha aba.
Okay.
Ndizoza kuni nje ngoku. Nani ningayibambi inamba phone yam. Abuye futhi ndaya kwelinye igqwetha apha edolobheni eRustenburg.
Webaba umzoxola ongichazele fast baba before ngikudedela. Lo mmeli owathi wegcina imali wechazela ukuthi mekuqala iprocess ukuthi obviously kuzoba nemali ebizwa ama legal fees wechazele mhlawumbe ukuthi mhlawumbe uzobamba isamba esinganga le mali ayibambile manje noma wathola wena usumangala njengoba naku sebeyitsala leyo mali.
Waqala kaloku abantombazane lasebenza nayo lo bawo. Bandicacisela uba umthetho okhoyo ngokuna uyagcinela umuntu imali. Ndithi ke mna ndingagcinela imali ndimdala kangaka utheni. Ngokuna ke ngokuwaqala uba ndiyayeka ke le nto ndizoqale ke ndiyibuze kwabanye abantu uba ililungelo nale nto yokugcinelwa kwemali.
Okay.
Ndiyobuza nje kwelinye ixesha phaa kuthi
but Tata umzoxolo xa esithi ukugcinele le mali uyakukhuphela le mali in small installments ke at the end of the month okanye wayigcina
hayi andiyitholi.
Okay.
Andiyitholi.
Okay
ngoku ndiyabona uba irobhani khona ndiyabona ngoku ndiswelekelwe ngumfowethu ingxaki khona ngoku bathi mandenze i-quotation ndenze i-quotation ne-death certificate ndazifeksa nge-2 kaFebruwari. Kodwa imali yafika nge-21 kaFebruwari sendimfihlile umkhuluwe.
Okay baba umzoxolo.
Yabona ke ngoba bubutsotsi le nto bayenzayo abantu.
Okay Tata umzoxolo siyabonga kakhulu. Thank you so much for uba uthethe nathi namhlanje usazise udaba lapho. Ngicela uhlale lapha eduze kwamabona kude wakho so that uzoza ukuba ama experts athini lambukeli ubaba loyo umzoxolo ke yena ke uyasho ukuthi walimala engozini yemoto ngo2012 naba abameli bakhe abesebenzisana nabo sebeyithatha leyo mali bayigcina kubona bathi umthetho omusha ukuthi kumele bayigcine lesamba semali. Manje ke ukhuluma kabanzi mbukeli ngalamalungelo akho uma ngabe phela wena usebenzisana nommeli mayelana nezindaba zama claims e-road accident fund kanye nokuthi kumele wenzeni uma phela ungaboni masolinye nommeli wakho. Asamukele ku Skype uTrudy Nichols ovela e-Legal Practice Council siphinde sibe nayo no Mr Elad Smaja yena ke ovela e-Raf Pay besimemileke embukeli ne-road accident fund kodwa ke ngebhadi bangakhona ukuthi basivakashele namhlanje. Trudy, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Welcome to the show. Tell us a bit about the Legal Practice Council. I mean, we know about the Law Society and so forth that are currently, that handle the disputes between consumers and their lawyers. But how different then is the Legal Practice Council from Law Society?
Thank you very much for having me on here today. The purpose of the
was effectively to take over what was the then Law Societies and to amalgamate the two professions of attorneys and advocates. And so to effectively provide one regulatory body for both attorneys and advocates.
All right. Let me hear from Mr. Smaja. Mr. Smaja, I mean, I read a bit about Raf Pay's mandate, but I mean, for the benefit of our viewers at home, tell us a bit about your outputs. I mean, it sounds like, you know, such a big help for those consumers, like, of course, our case study today. Basically, what our case study went through in short words, our case study had an accident back in 2012. He met up with lawyers. In fact, these lawyers approached approached him while he was in hospital. They offered to take up the case with him, take it all the way to the Road Accident Fund. He never received any funds. And when he eventually did, like in 2017, they kept over 200,000 Rand, of which he was actually paid initially 600,000 Rand. And he says upon inquiring as to why they were keeping such a huge sum of money that he wasn't even privy to the fact that they were going to keep this money, he says he was told by these lawyers that this was a new legal regulation that the lawyers had to now keep a certain percentage of the money, because I was asking him if it was maybe legal fees or so forth. He says no, the lawyers specifically told him this money was is because of new regulations that they have to keep a portion, a large portion. I mean, 200,000 is a lot from 600,000. So that's what happened here, sir.
So let me explain to you a little bit about Raf Pay.
Yes, sir.
So what we do at Raf Pay is that, as you've explained, this is a very long process with the Road Accident Fund. Typically, it's, from what we understand, averages of around 4 years from the date of accident until a settlement is reached or there's a trial at court, at which point claimants then get something known as a court order, which is a piece of paper which then tells them they're entitled to funds at the road accident, from the Road Accident Fund. What we have found is that from the date that they're told and they've won their case effectively, there's still a further wait of 6 to 12 months, which claimants then still need to wait. And what we do at Raf Pay is we help clients and we advance up to 50% of that amount. And then we wait until the Road Accident Fund settle up the balance. So where we help as a business, Raf Pay, is that we, during that period of waiting, are able to assist clients in getting their money. And then obviously as a business, we're waiting with the clients, and we've got a lot more insight and understanding into how this world works.
Yes.
And so there's a protection for the clients in that we understand what the lawyers can and cannot take, and we're also working with them to try recover those funds from the attorneys as quick as possible.
Mm-hmm. All right, but Mr. Smaja, then are you a government body? Are you an extension of the Road Accident Fund? Like, where exactly would one classify your position in this whole matter?
We are not part of the government. We're not part of the Road Accident Fund. We're a private business, and we identified a market that needed some change, that consumers needed some help, and we stepped in as a private business to help work that out and to give people assistance. As you know, a lot of people have been in road accidents. They've been injured. Often a very expensive medical treatment that's necessary. People often lose their jobs as a result of these injuries. And so we identified a market that needed assistance and reform, and we stepped in with a solution known as Raf Pay.
And that's a great solution there, Mr. Smaja. We're going to continue, Mbugeli, shortly after this break. Uma phela nawe ufuna ukubamba iqhaza ohlelweni lethu. Sungasishayela e-studio. I'll be opening those lines after the break. The magic number 011-714-6918. Alternatively, 714-6919. Consumer at SABC.co.za is, of course, our email address. Sikhona futhi na Facebook, as I promised. Ngizobe ngifunda lawo ma-messages shortly after this break. Ngaindawo. Yilungelo Asiphinde sikwamukele futhi Mbukeli. Ubhenge ilungelo lakho live on SABC 1 eMzansi for sure. Nami uMajalu Alisha uNhlanhlomo Othanda. Namhlanje Mbukeli sikhuluma ngokuthi uma wena wakwalimala engozini yemoto bese uthola ummeli ozokusiza ukuthi ulandele ozoyimali zakho, uthola ukuthi lo mmeli uthatha imali yakho uyayigcina, njengoba bese sizwile njengobaba uMzi woxolo othi yena walimala ngo2012 ummeli wagcina a whole 200,000 Rand. Sifuna ukwazi ke namhlanje ukuthi usebenza kanjani uma kunjalo. We had invited i-Road Accident Fund, but unfortunately, abakhonanga ukuza la namhlanje. But I do have Ms. Trudy Nichols, who's with the Legal Practice Council, as well as Mr. Ilet Smaja, who's the CEO of Raf Pay. Raf Pay ke ubesechazela ukuthi yona mangabe usuthola i-court order ukuthi imali zakho izophuma enkantolo mbukeli kuba ibona ke abahambayo. It takes even like a couple of hours ukuthi leyo mali bakhiphele isamba esingango 50% depending ukuthi uzotholani. All right, but maybe Trudy, let's come back with you. I want to include both of you on this one. You too, Mr. Ilad. I mean, after having explained the case of our case study, I want to hear from Trudy. Trudy, does Mziwaqolo have any legal leeway to lodge any claim against the lawyer that said it was part of the new regulations that now lawyers are supposed to keep for themselves a very substantial amount of money that was paid out to the claimant by the Road Accident Fund? What can he do in this situation, because he says he feels like he's been misled?
That is not part of the regulations. In fact, what the Legal Practice Council did do was in October 2019, the Legal Practice Council gazetted a notice in terms of specifically the Contingency Fee Act.
Yes.
And this is if in the context of your caller's complaint, he had a contingency fee agreement in place. So the Legal Practice Council gazetted a notice that was pursuant to Section 6 of the Contingency Fee Act, notifying members of the public of the terms and conditions that are applicable to claims in terms of the Contingency Fee Act, and what is required for a valid contingency fee agreement, and in addition, drawing members of the public's attention to the fact that if you are not happy with the terms of your contingency fee agreement that you're entitled to in terms of Section 5, to ask the Legal Practice Council to review it, or you can complain. That is a right that you have in terms of the Contingency Fee Act, which has been around since April 1999, and which was a right that previously vested in the previous Law Society, and which now the Legal Practice Council is in October 2019. So there is no such regulation as he's been told. That is completely incorrect. He has been misled in that regard, and he does have a recourse to complain to the Legal Practice Council if he had a contingency fee agreement and if he's been overcharged or defrauded in any manner whatsoever.
All right, so he can get in contact with you. Thank you so much, Trudy.
Right, so he can get in contact with you. Thank you so much, Trudy.
All right, we're getting a reverb there back from Trudy's Skype, and we're also struggling with her sound there. Let's go to Ilad. Ilad, I mean, in this case, I mean, already the amounts had already been approved. This client or claimant was dealing with, of course, attorneys that had assured him that they take the necessary steps to ensure that he's cushioned, of course, and also gets what was due to him. But, of course, they misled him. Do you think there's anything that you guys can do? Is there anything that you guys can do in this case? Or where would you advise then a claimant to get hold of you in order to avoid what happened to our case study?
Sorry, there's a lot of reverb on the call, but if I understood, you're asking about this specific case study.
Yes.
Case I would agree with Trudy. I would contact. Doesn't sound like fees.
All right. Mbukeli, we're going to take a very quick ad break. Sizame lapha ukulungisa isound. Our technicians are on the problem. Wena, you can keep it locked here on SABC 1 Mzansi for shows. Shayele ku 011-714-6918 or 714-6919. We are talking about ukuthi uma usuyithola ukuthi uqashe ummeli ukuthi akuthathele imali zakho, akulandele imali zakho lapha e-Road Accident Fund, uthola ukuthi lo mmeli ke sekuyena ogodla imali zakho, yini ekumele uyenze? Ngihleli ne-legal ne-Legal Practice Council kanye ne-Raf Pay, a new company or body eyenza sure ukuthi once wathola i-court order ibona bakumela kulayini benze sure ukuthi at least uyayithola enye imali yakho ekuzomela ize kuwena, at least they pay up to 50%. Siyabuya mbukeli sisazama ukuyolungisa lobo phiqhiqi. Asiphinde sikwambele futhi mbukeli singakaqhubeki-ke nenkulumo yethu yanamhlanje ke sizwe futhi olunye udaba lomunye wababukeli bethu abasithumele le voice note.
Last year in November, I signed the money how much I will get from Raf, and my lawyer make me sign so that I must wait that 180 days. 180 days was finished this year on June. After it finished, when I call my lawyer, go back to my lawyers, no answer, nothing. When I go to them, when they are open, they say no, they only allow people who have an appointment. So now I don't have appointment, so I'm not allowed to enter in their office. Because the time has been finished, the time that they say I must wait for. So now that's why I'm saying I was dropped by my lawyers. I don't know what to do anymore.
All right, mbukeli omunye wababukeli-ke loyo ositshela udaba lakhe. Na ungasichazela udaba lakho mbukeli, inumber is 011-714-6918 or 714-6919. Let me go back to you, Mr. Smaja. I mean, maybe just to wrap up with your previous answer, and then I want to bring the next case. I mean, we just had a voice note here, a very similar one to the previous caller. He says everything was put in order. He was just literally waiting for his lawyers to process the payment, but now they've been giving him the runaround. Till this day, he hasn't received a cent. And then we're going to take Trudy after that. Go ahead, Mr. Smaja.
So that caller sounds very familiar, and that's the phone calls that we get every single day. What's happened is that the Road Accident Fund have, they're working towards a 180-day turnaround time. So that's from when the judgment has, or the settlement has been done until payment comes out.
Yes.
Unfortunately, that 180 days or 6 months is more of a guideline, and we are seeing delayed payments as the result of COVID lockdowns, increased financial difficulty at the fund, etc. And so, yeah, there are a lot of people in this predicament. Unfortunately, there's not much the attorneys can do. And I understand his gripe with the attorneys, and maybe they could deal it in a better way and answer his phone calls and meet with him. But ultimately, they're waiting for their contingency fee, which is based off of the same payment, the same as this individual. And it's quite difficult for them as well to keep saying it's not us, we're waiting, let's all wait. And that's exactly the point where Raf Pay comes in and assists people. Because it is a difficult situation, and it's the question on everybody's lips in terms of when will payments start to come and how long do people have to wait. And unfortunately, at this point in time, it's a bit of an unanswerable question.
I mean, Trudy, let's come back to you there. I mean, it sounds like this is a regular modus operandi from many attorneys. I understand what Mr. Smaja is saying. He's saying in the case of our most recent case study, who sent a voice note, he says that the transparency between the lawyers and, of course, the claimant is not necessarily there. But, I mean, let's look at this thing in a larger context. One would assume that consulting an attorney or legal assistance is actually supposed to ensure your rights as a consumer and that you're going to be in good hands. But as we've heard and we've seen, this is not what is happening. And a lot of it is due to the lawyers. It sounds like people are not, the lawyers are not explaining the actual process to their clients and how it's going to affect them and all the waiting periods. And then people just feel like, you know, they're being swindled of their money after waiting for such long periods of time. Go ahead, Trudy. All right, it sounds like Trudy cannot hear me there. Let's go to our caller on the line. We do have Peter all the way from Mokopane. But Peter, thank you so much for joining us. Are you still on the line? All right, I don't think we have Peter on the line just yet. But Trudy, if you can hear me, just nod your head, ma'am. All right, Trudy cannot hear me. Let's go back to you, Elad. It seems like you are a very efficient guest today. We can hear you. Look, Elad, I mean, I'm sure our consumers, they're very happy, of course, about and relieved about Raf Pay's establishments. I want you to tell us then, what does your process involve once that court order is actually processed? How does that process unfold? Do the people call you, and then how long is the waiting period? I hear that you pay an upfront fee of a certain amount, but what happens in a case where, I wanted to ask, like, have you come across a case where the money was actually not guaranteed to be paid out and you've actually found yourself that you've paid somebody monies that they were not entitled to in that instance?
Make an inquiry about your matter. It's not okay to just be ignored each time you make an inquiry. Your attorney is obliged to return your calls and to respond to you, even if each time he's returning your call or responding to you, he's saying exactly the same thing, which is that we're still waiting for Raf to get back to us. We don't have anything new to report. The point is about communication and staying in touch with your client to keep them updated as to progress, even if there is no progress, so that you don't have the situation which is exactly has arisen now, where you have your client who doesn't know what's happening with his confused, and now he thinks that the RAF has paid out to his attorney and his attorney has absconded with his payment. That may not be the case. It may very well be that the attorney actually is waiting, but all the attorney has to simply do is respond to his client. So communication and correspondence is key, and it is actually considered misconduct if you don't correspond with your client regularly and keep them in touch with what's happening with the matter. So that's the one thing. It's not okay to ignore your client when they keep on contacting you to find out what's happening. Secondly, what the caller can do, and what any person who's got a claim with the RAF can do when they feel that after a few calls or pieces of correspondence to the attorney, they're not getting any joy, before escalating it to the Legal Practice Council, what they can do is phone the Road Accident Fund themselves. So they can phone the Road Accident Fund, give their name, and give the Road Accident Fund the identity number, and the Road Accident Fund will be able to tell them that, yes, we have confirmation that you, sir, have lodged, that your claim has been lodged, that these are the attorneys that have lodged your claim, and this is where your matter is in the process of being settled or being resolved.
All right.
So you can actually contact the RAF directly to query where your matter is in the entire process of being resolved from when it was lodged by your attorney.
All right, so
And
basically,
if you are actually
yes.
told when you contact the RAF that your matter was resolved and that it was paid out to your attorney, and your attorney is still not taking your calls, then you can contact the local provincial council of the Legal Practice Council in the province that you live in, because we have a provincial council in every single province.
All right.
So you go to the provincial office in the province that you live in and you lodge a complaint with that office regarding the fact that you've lodged, that you use these attorneys to lodge an RAF claim. They didn't return your calls. You contacted the RAF yourself and it appears your claim was paid out. You still can't get hold of your attorneys, and we will take the necessary steps to inquire what happened to your payment, and if necessary, the full disciplinary process will be followed. So you have all this recourse. Of course, you don't have to contact the RAF directly. I'm not saying that's a necessary step that you have to take. You can come straight to the Legal Practice Council and lodge a complaint. But I'm saying that is something that is available to you. You are not precluded from contacting the RAF yourself as a complainant and finding out what is happening with my matter if you feel like doing so.
Thank you, Trudy. All right, I understand now we're having a bit of a delay with Trudy, so she actually answered while I was still busy asking Mr. Smaja a question. So, Mr. Smaja, just wait a little bit. We still have some time. We're going to be going back to your question now. I just want to quickly take our caller, Bongegile, all the way from KZN in Newcastle. Bongegile, sakwamukela ohlelweni, sicela ukwazi ukuthi singakusiza kanjani namhlanje. Ngiyaphila ntokazi, kunjani?
Ngiyaphila, ngine-problem lana ne.
Yebo sithando sami, bakwenzeni?
Lezi ze-Provident Fund, lezi ze-Road Accident Fund.
Yes.
Ubaba
Kwenzakaleni?
miwalimala ku-Road Accident Fund and then naye wathola ummeli ozomsiza. Mekathola ummeli ozomsiza, ummeli wafaka insimbi kayi-2 enyaweni nala ngasesimweni phezulu.
Okay.
Mekafaka insimbi lapho ummeli wakhe wamclaimela imali wamnika u-30,000 and azange amtshela nokuthi uthole malini at all.
Okay, so uvani wamnika u-30,000 nje kuphela lo mmeli?
Uvane nje wamnika u-30,000 nje kuphela azange aza amtshele ukuthi uthole malini.
Hayibo, and ubaba asakhona ukusebenza mshobo ngekile because uthi ulimele.
Ubaba uyachuka, ubaba akasebenzi at all.
And then i-process intokazi sesibongekile ngazi mhlawumbe wawukhona wena njengengane menibheka ukuthi lo mmeli from esikhathini efika ezocela ukuthi anisize. Isivumelano sokuthi kahle kahle imali azoyithatha yena uma imali kababa seyikhishiwe kwakuvunyelene ngamalini mhlawumbe ntokazi?
Azange aze amtshele njengoba ngisho ukuthi azange azasitshela ukuthi uzothola malini, so bese sicabanga nokuthatha inyathelo size la iJoburg Legal Aid Office because sisasenama amaphepha lommeli every evidence yokuthi nokuthi amnika malini ne-check wamsayinela i-check wathi uzohamba olanda leyo mali kulelo bhenki lelo.
Haibo. Okay, sisibongekile. Trudy, maybe let me come back to you. I think this needs your expertise. We have Bongekile. She's the daughter here. She says her dad got injured a while back and he was severely disabled. I mean, his back has like metal braces and so forth. His father then acquired legal assistance in an attorney and the lawyer only paid out 30,000 rand to the father, never mentioned what the initial agreed amount was supposed to be paid by the Road Accident Fund or what the legal fees he was going to charge or how much the Road Accident Fund actually paid out to this man. The only thing the family received was 30,000 rand. The lawyer gave them the banking details where he would withdraw this 30,000 rand. But I mean, 30,000 rand for such a severe injury, it sounds like something went terribly wrong here. Trudy? All right. Elad, did you hear that? I mean, I'm trying to get word from Trudy here, but I mean, it sounds like, I remember, I wanted to raise this point with you before we got cut off. I mean, I remember the Road Accident Fund was actually here on this very show saying that they're trying to do away with the middlemen, basically saying that they're trying to take away the attorneys from the process of the claimants coming through lawyers because they are having a lot of problems, a lot of complaints have arisen from the fact that there's a middleman in a way that attorneys are claiming on behalf of people. But it sounds like this is just how attorneys have been practicing because people, number one, they're not privy to how much settlement amount, the total amount that the Road Accident Fund is going to pay out. It seems like they're left out of this process of consultation with the Road Accident Fund as to how much exactly they will be paid out. So basically, this is where you guys come in. How transparent are you guys? How different are you from these lawyers that just decide, okay, 30,000 rand is enough for you, even though you have, a severe injury where you can't even work for your family anymore?
Okay, so there's a few points there. It's quite an intense question,
Yes.
but let me unpack it a little bit. So in terms of the attorneys, I know they get a bad rap. I'm not an attorney myself, but what I've seen is that on the whole, attorneys are very honest and they do a lot of hard work for their clients. And remember, they're carrying the costs of these medical expert reports that have to be done and the advocates and the actuaries and all of this throughout the process. And by and large, the attorneys that we work with and that we've engaged with have been largely honest. And I mean, obviously, you are going to have the bad apples in the bunch.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there is just probably a lack of communication. There is also a lack of communication from the fund themselves. So, for example, during COVID, the direct phone lines of the Road Accident have not been answered for the last 3-4 months. So the claimants at the end of the day are in a very difficult position, and it's hard for them to really assess the truth and get an understanding. And this is quite a complicated and convoluted process to eventually get a claim through the Road Accident Fund. And for the man on the street that's not fully aware of the legal and financial intricacies of this process, it can be a bit overwhelming. What we do from Raf Pay side, if we can only work with claimants that have gone through the legal process and are at the point where they have reached settlement with the fund. And at that point we come in and we work with attorneys. We place reliance on attorneys, and by and large we've been largely impressed by what we've seen in terms of the caliber of these attorneys. Just say that everybody is above board and legitimate, but there is recourse if you are concerned about your attorney. I mean, this specific case of the 30,000 rand doesn't sound fully right to me, and I would encourage them to get in touch with the Legal Practice Council and to lodge a query.
Very quickly, Mr. Smaja, before we go to a quick ad break, is then one able to drop the process with their attorney if they feel aggrieved or feel that their attorneys are actually misleading them or they're not transparent with the process with the Road Accident Fund, and opt rather to acquire your services? Is that even possible?
So we work with the attorneys. If somebody has a valid court order, I would encourage them to get in touch with Raf Pay. And we would, because we work so close with the attorneys, I mean, we're able to assess whether the numbers that are being quoted are correct or not, and in that way assist. But generally, we are not attorneys, and we're not a law firm, and we're not the Legal Practice Council, and that's predominantly their expertise in area of domain.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Smaja Mbugeli. Let's take another quick ad break. Siyabuya khona manje ungashayela ucingo usibhalela ama-email usibhalela uFacebook. I'll be taking those Facebook messages shortly after this break. Welcome back. Sisadingida lo daba lokuthi uma wena ufaka isicelo sakho phela sokulimala kwi-Road Accident Fund, wasifaka through abameli, uthola ukuthi lo meli useyagijimisa manje left right and center akasakunikeza imali. Sizwile i-case study yethu uthi yena uvane wabamba 200,000 rand, omunye uthi bavane bamkhokhela 30,000 rand, kungakaze kudiscuss ukuthi imali evela kwi-Road Accident Fund imalini kanti ubaba welimele kakhulu. Sishayele 011-714-6918 714-6919. Asiye kubalungile all the way in Pietermaritzburg. Ntombi yangakithi kunjani? Sekwamukela ohlelweni. Sisibalungile?
Yebo sawubona.
Kunjani Ntokazi? Usuyathuka manje ngoba ungekho kwi-video call. Qhubeka Ntokazi, sikusize kanjani namhlanje Sithando?
Sisingana ngaphaya ngo-2016 manje ngiyami ukuthi angazi ngikhathe singakanani.
Walimala ngo-2016, sichazela udaba lakho nani?
No, nga-apply.
Okay. Wawulimele nini wena?
Ngalimala ngo-2014.
2014, okay. Wafaka isikhalazo ngo-2016, kwathiwani Ntokazi?
Ngaqedela ngahamba udokotela kodwa namanje.
Waya kodokotela. Wawufaka isikhalazo kwi-Road Accident Fund, awusebenzisanga abameli Sithando?
Ngasebenzisa ummeli.
Uthini ummeli? I mean, uyak-update, uyakufonela akutshela ukuthi phela emva kokuthi nihambile naye kodokotela, this is ilokhuzane outcome.
Mhlawumbe ngaje khona se-upside down kodwa manje ukuthi nginenkinga ukuthi angazi ukuthi kulinde isikhathi esingakanani.
Ngicela wehlise i-TV yakho Sithando sami khona sokuzwisisa kahle ne?
Okay.
All right. Qhubeka ke Ntokazi. Yeah.
Ummeli ngamfonela ukuthi qhubeka kanjani isimo se-COVID. Mase upside manje. Ehlisa.
Okay, so uthini ummeli namanje akakayikhiphi imali?
Cha nje ngisalindile.
Usalindile, there's no update, nothing. Kodwa usakhuluma nawe lo mmeli?
Yeah, saxhumana.
Uthi yini inkinga wena balungile uthi i-road accident fund engakakhokhi or yini mechaza?
Uthi odokotela basaqhathile.
Uthi odokotela ekumele ba-finalize ilokhuzana. Oh, okay. All right. Okay, siyabonga kakhulu Ntokazi. Trudy, there is another quick one for you. Welcome back. I mean, we've missed you throughout this whole segment. Listen, our caller here says she got injured back in 2014. She went to apply at the Road Accident Fund through a lawyer in 2016. She's gone through the whole process of assessments with doctors and so forth. But now it's 2020. The lawyer is only telling her that the doctors have still not finalized those medical reports in order for a claim to be finalized. I mean, is this the correct frame, the time frame? I mean, I think everything should have been resolved by now. It's been what, 2014 to 2020? It's been a long time, 6 years.
No, that's not unusual.
It's not unusual.
No, not at all. And one must bear in mind the severity of the injuries. So if she says she's been to doctors and specialists, then what generally tends to happen is that her attorneys would have sent her to specialists who would have her assessed and they would prepare specialist reports. It doesn't necessarily follow that the Road Accident Fund will accept these reports and will agree with them. So what the Road Accident Fund will then do is that they will send the complainant to their own medical specialist, who will then also assess her and provide a report. And this takes time as well, because the problem with medical specialists is that you phone them today for an appointment to see them, to have a look at the complainant. You phone, for example, an orthopedic surgeon today on a Monday in August the 3rd. You're not going to get an appointment for the 23rd of August. You're going to get an appointment, if you're lucky, in November. So, it's getting dates for appointments. That's key, and you generally need to have a number of medical specialists. So the fact that she's got a number of specialists is actually a very good indication for her. And then the Road Accident Fund will also send her to a number of medical specialists to be assessed. And then before the matter can be heard to determine the quantum of her damages based on her injuries, the court requires that these medical specialists, so if you have two orthopedic surgeons on both sides,
yes,
they will both have to meet and agree. So based on their reports, they'll both have to agree what is not an issue and define what are the issues that are in dispute.
I see.
What are the issues that they disagree on?
All right.
And then that is what will be decided. But the other reason why it's taking so long, so we're looking at 6 years, is generally what happens with these matters is that the first time the matter goes to court will be for the issue of liability to be determined.
Yes.
And that is whether or not the Road Accident Fund is even liable to her at all. And if the court finds, yes, the Road Accident Fund is liable to pay the complainant for the damages as a result of the injury she sustained in an accident, and it makes that order.
Okay. All right.
Then after, and sometimes that can take about 3 years to get to court for that. That's no fault of the Road Accident Fund. That's no fault of the attorneys.
All right.
That's because of the court roles and how busy they are. So once that determination of liability has been made, then both parties are actively, not that they weren't doing this previously, but now they're more actively trying to ascertain what the quantum of her injuries are, the damages.
Yeah.
And that you can only do by sending her to specialists, which are the doctors. And both sides need to do that. And then the specialists, the medical specialists meet, they have joint meetings, they produce what is called a joint minute. And these joint minutes, they then agree what is not in dispute.
Okay.
And what the crisp issues in dispute are. And once they have these joint minutes, it gets sent to an actuary who will then quantify what her damages actually are.
All right, all right.
So the fact that this has taken 6 years for her to get to the point where she's now been assessed by medical specialists, etc., says to me, without knowing anything about her matter, that liability must have been resolved in her favor.
Okay.
And that she's not only been seen by medical specialists who have been appointed by her lawyers, but possibly also have been appointed by the Road Accident Fund. So things are moving along nicely.
All right. Thank you, Trudy, for that clarification. Let's quickly take Edith before we take our final ad break. I understand Edith all the way from Soshanguve is still on the line. Edith, are you still with us?
I am.
Kunjani sis Edith?
Ngikhona njani sisi wami?
Ngiyaphila Ntokazi, awuthi nje ukuyifinqa indaba yakho before siye ekhefini Ntokazi, ngizokuphendula mesibuya khona.
Okay sisi wami. Mina nginenkinga la. Umama wachayisa imoto ngo-2001.
Yes.
And then sathola ummeli kokwamthola ummeli bathi ufan vague.
Okay.
So ummeli loyo bakase Brooklyn. And then ugogo makaya ayomcheka athola sakamuvile bathi use eLenwood. And bakaloka kuthumelela amaphepha khona abhala into iwana abhala Africans angikwazi ukuyibala nani Africans leyo.
Okay.
I understand.
Okay.
So sa give up vele ukuthi imali asayitholi.
Okay.
So mina icase leqala behamba ugogo wami. So mina ngo-2010 ngasukuma ngaya eLaw Society. Ngafika ngabachazisela ukuthi kwayenzakalani ngabakhomba nalamaphepha lawo akafanveki.
Yes.
So bangithumele bathi bazangithumelela i-feedback ukuthi kuhamba njani. So ngabuyi 13 zaka July. And then after a week ngathola i-call from EPA yaka fanveki. Wangitshela ukuthi ngibathumelele i-account yami. And then imali kumele ngiyithole ngathi ngithole 2.5 or less than 2.5 ngathi njani imali encane kangaka bathi ngoba umuntu makashonile sikhipha only imali ye-funeral ngathi mara i-2.5 leyo akusimali ye-funeral. Then ngoba bese kukudala then nginga-understand nami ukuthi is it true or bangitshela amanga and then ngavuma bangipha leyo mali leyo.
Hayibo sis Edith, uma meshayiswa imoto ushonile yini lapho?
Ushonile.
Hayibo, so bakhipha 2,500 rand bona.
Yes, ngathola u2,500 rand. So bangithumelela iphepha from Law Society ukuthi icase yami angeke bakhona ukungisiza ngokuba sekuyisikhathi ngale case le ele mara ngiye 2010 and case akamama yami yango 2001. Mara into engimangazile why after ngibuya Law Society ufana veki angifonela and then bacela i-account yami ukuthi umuntu lo usinidi lo ngithole.
All right, sis Edith. Ngiyabonga sis. I'm going to have to leave it there, but ngiyaluza udaba lakho Ntokazi because of time constraints. I quickly have to go to ekhefini lokugcina mbukeli. We're coming back shortly after this. All right, mbukeli suliphetha kanjalo uhlelo lethu. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of our show. Angisenaso mbukeli isikhathi. I was actually even explaining to Trudy while we were off air ukuthi kwenzakalani indaba ka-Edith. Sis Edith, siyacela lapho Ntokazi ukuthi go on our Facebook pages nani nonke babukela uma ngabe senifike manje nifuna ukuzwa ukuthi nisebenza kanjani ngeindaba ze-Road Accident Fund or ninenkinga nabameli. Go to iwebsite yethu ama-Facebook page wethu. We will be having imininingwane yama-guests wethu namhlanje. Namely, Miss Trudy Nichols, who's from the Legal Practice Council, as well as Mr. Elad Smajayenage, uvela Raf Pay. Those are the people that can assist you in the matters we've been talking about today. Let me thank my guests for their time today. Unfortunately, I've run out of time. Bye, everybody. I'll see you next time live here on SABC 1 Mzansi, for sure. Yilungelo Lakho